Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of serving margaritas, serving shots, Tucson, Arizona, San Diego, love. But today's episode is truly about the Jackalope. That's right. Today's guest, Alexis Piotrowski, managing partner at the Jackalope, has some great news, and that is Jackalope South Shore off of Riverside in Austin, Texas, has its grand opening this Saturday on November 19th. I hope to see you all there, and I hope you guys enjoyed this chat with Alexis Piotrowski.
Well, I think what's really weird is I don't know personally, because birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people that I know that thought the election was going to go the way that it did.
Yeah.
And we actually made a decision yesterday at the South Shore location to not show it with sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really, we have a pretty diverse clientele there.
Yeah.
And I knew this election was very heated. There was a lot of emotion on both sides. And I really did not want to have this atmosphere where people are potentially...
Like contentious, right?
Yeah, and like getting crazy, maybe arguing. I don't really know. I really didn't want that tone to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's a pretty wise choice.
I thought about it long and hard, and I just thought, this is the most emotional election I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And that I don't want for people to have that kind of banter. It's
Right.
it's even sometimes, when you're watching sports.
Sure.
And of course, one team's going to lose.
Yeah, it has to be that way.
But even in sports, some people take that loss extremely hard.
And personally.
Yes.
Like, even though they don't play for the team.
Right, exactly. So to me, this was like any of your favorite teams, losing worse than anything you'd ever imagine.
God, no kidding.
Yeah, so I said, hey, we're not going to do that here. That's not what this bar is going to be about today.
That's what makes sense, because I remember, I have very fond memories of the original Jackalope, watching They Live, watching Phantasm, like stuff that just is like, you got to watch it, and it's got to have some sound or some subtitles. But how was the response from the clientele, like everybody that was in there kind of looking at the TV?
I'm happy we declined to play it with sound because there were definitely Trump supporters and Hillary supporters,
yeah,
obviously.
of course. We have to coexist, right?
It's a thing. And certain people were actually, getting fairly hostile about us not showing it with sound that lived in the apartment complex right behind us.
Okay.
We're like, well, then go home.
Yeah, it's not like you're that far away, right?
You live
it's like right there, yeah.
Get over there if that's what you want to do,
yeah.
So some people responded positively, some people negatively. I think, as the evening wore on, it was starting to kind of sink in what was happening.
What was and this is interesting because you have a unique perspective because you're in this time and place that is among strangers, and some people that obviously people that that work with you. Was there like this somber tone to things, or was there excitement? I mean, Austin, you think it'd be one way over the other, but how was kind of the tone of the room?
I don't know. I think that, like I said, as early on, around 6, 7, it was obvious Trump was winning, but there were still all these other states that hadn't, really settled in.
People's fingers are crossed, right?
Yeah. Oh, she can still win this. Or,
right.
Trump needs to sweep all of these, Rust Belt states.
Yeah.
Or, and then once it was like, whoa, wait a minute. There's no way she's going to win.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when it happened, it was like, whoa.
It's history.
It is history. I certainly woke up this morning feeling not very excited.
Yeah.
I was... Personally, that wasn't the way that I wanted the election to go. And I think, for a lot of people, even when you think about like the stock market going down the way that it did today.
And then it's all great now.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
See,
it's totally
I haven't
it
logged
closed
on
amazingly.
Okay,
like, you look at your stocks or whatever, and I'm not like a rich guy, but it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so it ended, and it seems like everything is doing better than it was last week.
Okay,
it's so strange, man.
Yeah, all I really got to focus on this morning, because I've been at work all day, was how are people waking up and feeling? And most of everybody that I knew was not amazing.
It was not amazing.
Yeah.
That is the best way to put it. It was a widespread not amazing tone this morning. And, we all still have to get along and coexist. And I was talking to a brethren from Glenfiddich, Scottish dude, and he's like, we disagree all the time.
Yeah.
We don't take it personally. That kind of diversity is what really makes the country. That's what makes this kind of beautiful tapestry of different backgrounds and opinions and things. Why do you think, and this is of course a weird angle to like take this conversation initially, but why do you think we get so offended when someone doesn't agree with us?
I think
if that's true. Now I'm begging the question. I'm basically leading that question.
But that when you're very young and you get offended that somebody doesn't agree with you, it's because you take it to be that they're saying you're wrong.
Right.
Okay. And, kids don't want to be wrong.
Of course not.
I'm right. I know what I'm doing. I also don't want to be judged.
Sure.
So if somebody thinks, differently than me, are they silently judging me?
Yeah.
Are they talking about my character? So I think that's when you're young. That's kind of how people take it. I think as you start to get older, you kind of naturally have less and less friends. You kind of
it gets closer, right? Like
you've already
tighter
picked
knit
out.
and stuff.
I like this person. I hate this person. I don't.
Or
have
you're
any
married,
time.
right?
Yeah,
the ultimate choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think when you're older, I don't know that people get as offended. Obviously, this election is different, but in general, I think that people are less offended by somebody else's difference in opinion, unless the person comes at you with a hostile tone.
I see.
So I personally welcome feedback about different things. And okay, I'm happy that you have a different opinion. If we all have the same ideas in mind, I wouldn't ever learn anything.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that, we also live in a fairly millennial culture at this point.
Yeah.
And not to speak negatively of that, sort of age group, but they're more, from a society of constant reward and affirmation.
Likes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I grew up, it was if you didn't do something right, you didn't get a sticker, you didn't get a star, and you got an award.
Yeah.
You got to do it all over again.
Oh, man. No kidding. Spelling tests are the worst.
Exactly. You failed. Why don't you try that all over again?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does. It really does. I think it's just this interesting dynamic, and obviously it's the generations, as business owner, right? This is a question I ask myself a lot. Do you ever want to pick your customers? You know what I mean? Because you get all kinds.
Yeah.
Do you ever want to say I'd love to just be able to pick my customers?
Oh, I think that's everybody's dream. I don't even think that's a question you have to ask. If I only pick this, because I think when you have a brand, you have to decide who it is you're trying to appeal to.
Right.
Otherwise, you're trying to appeal to everybody, and brands like that don't last. You can't make everybody happy. So you have to decide who is it that you want to make happy? Who is it that you want to like what it is that you're doing? And for me, I try to target like-minded people.
Yeah.
And I think that most people who own a business try to do the same thing, because if I'm passionate about something and you like what it is that I'm passionate about, then what I'm selling is genuine.
Yeah, for sure. It connects with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only we could pick. It's hard, man, because you get people reviewing things. Yeah. And they're like, oh, it's the shittiest place ever.
Also, that's the worst. It's so passive aggressive.
Yeah.
When I used to hate something, if I was in a bar or a restaurant, I waited and I talked to the manager.
Totally, right.
I had a face-to-face conversation with a live human being
who
could either rectify the situation or tell me to kick rocks.
Right, which means they didn't care anyway.
Right,
so
which is fine.
Then you're affirmed. You got exactly the right.
Exactly. Everything I wanted to happen happened. I was acknowledged. Mm-hmm. I either got the answer I wanted or I didn't. But I knew right then and there. Right? Yeah. Exactly. I wasn't, clicking on 5 stars or 1 star or whatever the deal was and, unleashing a 5-page essay via the internet, being a connoisseur of a business that I probably don't know anything about.
Or will never go back to.
Right.
You're there it's like you're not an actual loyal customer. These are interesting things to think about, and I know that plenty of our friends are business owners, and they have to put up with this shit all the time. So then it begs the question, and I just realized how much I talk with my hands, but no one can tell because they're just listening and they can't see it.
Right.
I love that. That's great.
He's a passionate speaker, people. He's flailing all over the place.
The flailing is an appropriate, that's a very appropriate word for it.
I also am generally a very hand talker.
That's good.
And I think people think that I'm mad.
Yeah?
When I'm talking, I'm getting riled up with my hands. Exactly. That's just how I talk.
Are you Italian?
I am. Yeah.
See, well, there we go.
Yeah.
Now, no aspersions, just some stereotypes that I've heard. Right? Exactly. I'm not Italian, so I still talk with my hands. I don't know where the fuck that came from. Maybe debate. I don't know. But it begs the question, why did you... Because there's this whole story about how you got into this industry, right? And I'm going to try to figure out why. I'm going to try to figure out exactly what kinds of things happened that maybe you fell in love with about hospitality. But from what I understand, does this whole story start in Arizona? Are you an Arizona girl?
I grew up in Southern California until, basically about junior high.
Oh, really?
Mid-junior high. Then I moved to Tucson, which is where my family's from.
Yeah.
And then moved back to Southern California when I was 22 and started living in San Diego and working
in San Diego, right? Yeah. So what was the impetus for the first move to Tucson before you came back at 22? Your folks split, or was it?
Oh, no. My dad just got a different job.
Yeah, that's how it is, right?
Yeah. So family moves, you move by default.
That's right.
Like, I don't actually really want to live in Arizona. I like living by the beach.
That's who would. We moved to. I lived in Scottsdale for like 4 years. Like, who the hell wants to go? Yeah.
Concrete jungle.
Dude, who wants to live there?
Nobody. It's hot as balls.
I don't play golf.
Right.
I'm not that white.
I played soccer at the time, so
it's impossible.
I'm sweating, I'm dying. Yeah.
It's actually a life-threatening habit if you're a soccer player.
It is, yeah.
'Cause there's not indoor stuff. You're out there. I still recall the one thing that I realized I was in a hell-like area. I saw the concrete split. It actually came up like an earthquake and went on the sidewalk. It's like, I don't want to be out here anymore.
No,
this is dangerous
too
shit.
Much. I got to get inside.
Well, okay. So what industry was your dad in that he shifted?
So he was an engineer. So he was, designing. At the time, I think that he was working for environmental testing.
Oh, okay.
So, but like the emissions on cars and things like that.
Before it was cool.
Before it was cool, yeah. Before a Prius was even invented.
Oh, man. Because do you remember those long emissions lines you had to get checked in Arizona?
Yeah.
That's not like it anywhere else that I remember. We just would sit in line.
Yeah, you're right.
But that's like a weird kind of tradition. Almost.
It is, yeah.
Did you get stuck?
You got to get over there once a year, and you got to wait in line.
It's like a drive-through.
And the worst part was, if your car failed, and you left, without getting a ticket, the police would wait.
Oh my gosh, you kidding me?
And give you a ticket because they just knew it was like easy pickings.
Oh my God!
This
it's like
person
the cops
just failed. Exactly.
The cops at Whataburger on the UT campus. That's like, the only reason you're eating 4 taquitos right now, sir, is because you're drunk as shit.
Exactly.
Here's a public intoxication ticket. It's a entrapment. That's really, really a entrapment. But
that's the same thing with the Wendy's over off the 35.
Which one? The one down by 6?
Yeah, exactly.
The cops are hanging out there too?
Totally.
I didn't know that.
Oh, for good reason though. I mean, things are a little ghetto over there too.
It's a rough little nestled place where there's
Yeah.
Good fries, good hamburgers, lots of fights.
Yes.
It's happened. And you've seen it go down, without a doubt,
day.
every day.
Yeah.
So Tucson really hit place now, but going to junior high and stuff in Tucson, what kinds of things were you an athletic kid? You talk about soccer.
I was super athletic, yeah.
Any kind of predilection towards like math or science, or wasn't really?
So actually I was very good at English and I did a lot of art. And I could have graduated early. So I did I ended up in like AP English and some other AP classes.
Yeah.
And, you get college credits for them and this, that, whatever. And by the time senior year hit, I could have not done the senior year if I didn't want to.
Right, okay.
But I realized, well, all my friends are graduating this same year.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
You're just hang out, right?
Yeah, and that's weird,
Yeah.
And so I took my senior year just art classes.
Oh, shit, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's your medium? Do you like paint? Do you like to sculpt?
So I tend to find myself in more of like a mixed media, like maybe painting, maybe working with wires, wood, branches, like found objects.
Yeah.
I
Duchamp,
find,
right?
What's that?
Marcel Duchamp, like finding toilets and turning it into art and stuff.
Well, yes, on a smaller scale probably. But I think there's a lot of beauty in things that people don't, look at, and I try to create something that I think is visually appealing or pleasing.
Typically stuff that's discarded even? Or is it
Kind
not that?
of, yeah. So, when I was doing more mixed media things, it would be, I don't know, like hair and
really?
Like moths, bugs, insects, things like that.
Like real organic.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. Man, there's a bunch of crazy insects in Arizona too.
Dude, everything in Arizona is like out to hurt you.
That's right.
You've got the scorpions, the rattlesnakes, the what are those? The tarantulas.
Yeah, big beetles all over the place.
Horny toads that shoot blood out of their eye to try to blind you, and that's their defense mechanism.
It's a tough place, dude.
I mean, yeah. Or
it is.
Cacti.
Cacti, that's right.
Yeah.
The saguaros, the mighty saguaros. We
Yeah.
don't see a lot of those here. It's kind of, I miss that a little
I do
bit.
too.
That's one thing I actually do miss about Arizona. But so going down the art path, was the athletic piece something that was just as feasible in terms of going into college, getting a scholarship and that kind of stuff?
So when I graduated high school, I thought that I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
So I started going to community college and was doing my gen eds for that.
Okay.
But then I realized that teachers don't make any money.
That's true.
And while I think I'm a natural born leader and I really love children, and that was very rewarding, I started working at a preschool and I was doing their after school program to, kind of like put myself in the situation. And what I realized was that I would have gotten paid more to wash somebody's dishes than I would to watch their children.
Oh, man.
And
not get sick because of it either.
And I mean, teachers aren't treated very well.
Right.
You have very defensive, protective parents who can't be told that their child isn't doing well, or they need a little extra help or a little extra time or whatever the situation is. And I found that that just wasn't my path. Hey, world, thank you for the wake-up call. This is not what Alexis is meant to do.
But that's the greatest thing about the world.
Right.
Tell me what I don't want to do, right? Because then I can just cross it off.
Start eliminating those things right off the list.
That's what dating is.
Yeah.
It's just like,
now
I know.
I hate you, you're great, you're the worst.
The worst.
Know. Yeah.
But it's still all great to have on the list. So
right.
Don't repeat that shit time and time again, right?
Yeah.
So is it safe to say then when you kind of have this realization that you're like, I just want to do food stuff, hospitality stuff? Was that really kind of how it presented itself?
It wasn't actually. It was like I had done, my first job was I was a hostess, when I was 16, and I worked at Landry's Seafood House.
Oh, Landry's.
And, that was a very fond memory just because it's fun and the service industry is really fun.
Yeah.
And
16 too. I mean, that's pretty early.
Yeah. I've always had a really good work ethic.
Yeah.
So, I'm working there, and when I realized that I didn't want to do this, child rearing for somebody else and the underpaid sort of deal, I went back to waiting tables. And while I was living in Tucson, I got my first bartending job at this place called Bison Witches.
Okay.
And it's right on 4th, and it's in the middle of little downtown Tucson, the kind of hip, cool place. And, at the time, this is, over a decade ago.
Yeah, what year are we talking roughly?
So probably right when I had turned 21, and I'm not 21 anymore.
We can beep it.
Yeah, so, I'm 36 now.
Yeah. Oh, we're the same age, so.
So at that time, and I obviously didn't live anywhere else, so I don't know what the rest of the world was like, but Tucson didn't have a lot of female bartenders. It was definitely, a thing of only men got hired behind bars.
Do you think women were applying to be in the gigs, or it was?
They were. I think that a lot of people, over 10 years ago thought that women weren't assertive enough to cut people off, or, people, I think, were more comfortable with having females as servers.
Right.
and not as much as the person behind the bar.
Like a decision maker, really. It's an interesting thing where it's like, okay, you can do this stuff.
Right.
But I don't trust you to do like the real stuff.
It's like very doctor nurse.
It is.
Like I'm totally comfortable with a female nurse, but I don't know if I want that girl writing my prescriptions.
I don't have cancer. What are you talking about? You're a woman doctor. I'll give you that is a very interesting thing. And again, really apropos given the kind of state we're in this week, especially.
Right.
Anyway, so but the bar back, not the bar backing thing, but the bartending thing, was that interesting to you? Like an interesting shift from serving?
It was very interesting because I was kind of like, yeah, I'm in charge now. And I had been taking people's shit as a server for so many years, for like at that point a long time. And I really liked it. I was like, okay, this is cool, so Bison's hired me, they trained me. It was a very college bar. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of shots, a lot of like what color. Also, like think about the year that it was,
Yeah, you're talking like 2000, 2001, right?
Right, exactly. So everything's like purple, blue, green. How many layers are in that shot,
But it is shots, right? Like a bunch of shots.
Oh, a bunch of shots. I really knew my shots back then. And I don't think those shots still apply these days. I mean, fortunately, I think we've kind of grown past that.
Yes. Just a little bit.
I don't know the last time somebody ordered like a sexy alligator or,
I don't even know
a
what that
Starry
is.
Night.
Yeah, what is that?
Starry Night's just Goldschlager and Jaeger.
Fair enough.
But it sounds cool.
It sounds like so sludgy.
It
should just be called neurosis. That's what it should be called.
Yeah, it's very, very artery clogging for sure. So that's kind of where I got my, bartending start for sure.
Yeah.
And I worked there for, I want to say a good year or so before I moved to San Diego.
So what was the impetus for moving to San Diego? Career? Was it love?
No. You know what? It was more like I don't want to live in Tucson forever. I lived in California and I wanted to go back. I always wanted to go back to California.
Something about the beach, right?
I mean, it was just a different lifestyle even, So I saved up my money and I had a friend of mine who was a traveling nurse in Tucson, moved to San Diego. And he had said, Alexis, I really want you to move out here. I really think you're going to love it. And when he would travel in Tucson and leave Tucson, I would watch his dog.
Oh, cool.
And he was roommates with my best friend at the time. So this is kind of how I met him. And we all stayed in contact. And I would go visit them in San Diego. And I'm like, man, I love it. But, it's scary moving to a place that's far more expensive.
Oh, right.
I wasn't very good with my money as a 21-year-old kid.
What do you spend money on as a 21-year-old?
Like anything, everything.
What do you got?
Right? Yeah, I'll buy anything. I'll be sold anything. So he says, Alexis, why don't you move over to San Diego and just watch my dog?
Yeah.
I have an extra room, and when you can afford to pay rent, then you can pay rent.
Oh, it's perfect.
So I was like, okay, that's
family
one hell of a
was still
deal.
there too, right?
No, we'd all moved back to Tucson.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it was just kind of me going out into the world by myself.
Man.
And I said, well, you know what, the hell with it? I'm going to take you up on this offer.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to live in Tucson, Arizona for the rest of my life.
You'll get stuck there.
You get stuck there. And so I did. I saved up my money and I moved and started working at a place in the gas lamp called Fred's.
Okay. What kind of spot was that?
It was, I guess, a white Mexican place with a lot of kitsch. If that
my gosh.
Sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of places like that in Arizona too.
Yeah, there totally are. So it was, they had things on their menu like chingaderas, which, in Spanish means like little motherfucker or something like that. Like, so it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it's good. Kitschy's a great word for it.
It was definitely kitschy and, kind of in a weird way decorated like a little Hooterishy, if that makes sense. Like, how Hooters is like kind of gaudy and has a bunch of things in it.
Yeah.
And you're like, why are these palapas indoors?
Right.
Okay, well, they were at Fred's.
Interesting.
You had these indoor palapa booths. And
so it's like a John Waters movie almost.
It had its own little niche for sure. And there, they wouldn't hire you as a bartender. You had to start as a server.
Okay.
At least I did. And I remember having a conversation with my boss, Robin, at the time. And I'm like, Robin, I can't wait tables anymore. It's literally stealing my soul. These people, because people do treat your servers differently.
Oh, totally do.
They treat you like servants.
Yeah.
And certainly that place, not to disparage them because they were a well-run organization, but it was like the customer was always right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that time, early 2000s, people really believed that. There's no way the customer is wrong. There's no way the customer is trying to milk me for free things by complaining because they know what the complaint policy is. There's no way anybody's taking advantage of this restaurant.
It's so funny because you're right. Like, why did that not occur to us?
I don't know.
People are always trying to be shysters.
Always.
Get shit all the
It's
time.
like the Nordstrom's return policy.
What is that? No way. Tell me about that.
Oh, it's insane. It's like, I wore it, I used it, I hate it, I'd like my money back. Okay.
Oh.
Same thing with makeup there,
No
perfume.
shit.
Yes, totally.
Ooh, maybe I'll look into a tux for an event. There's Christmas is coming up. Yeah.
I've made some drunken decisions in my youth to purchase things from there, sobered up a couple weeks later and been like, what the fuck? This has to go back. But I'm going to use it a couple more times first.
That's beautiful. But yes, illustrates the point perfectly. People take advantage.
Yes, they do. So, I said, I can't do this anymore. Get me off the floor, sort of deal.
Yeah.
And they did, and I bartended there for a good while. And it's funny because I want to say that San Diego, though I had worked in the service industry for a long time, San Diego is actually where I learned how to make money.
What was the distinguishing difference then?
I think that I became, more comfortable with sort of myself and like what my service was and maybe like what my table persona or my bar presence was.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really kind of learned what people wanted.
Tell me a couple of things that were unique and you're like, oh, I didn't realize people wanted this stuff.
I think that, having waited tables for a long time and not having bartended, but only when I was waiting tables. I think tending bar taught me a lot too, just about presence.
Sure.
But I think that I was almost more afraid of my guests. Like you don't want to get in their way. You don't want to be a part of their experience and they don't want you to be.
Yeah.
Sort of deal. And I think a lot of places that's probably still true, just depending on, what type of bar or restaurant you choose to go to.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that I started to realize that good service extended past just getting people what they wanted and refills and being attentive.
Yeah.
It was also being genuine and being really friendly and a little bit more engaging and creating, a memorable experience.
Yeah, yeah. Does that often involve getting to know just a little tidbit about the customer itself? Or is it more topical than that?
I think it's more topical. I think that, certainly I learned how to develop regulars.
Yeah.
And, very loyal repeat customers. And at that point, I would tend to know a lot about them.
Sure.
Because they've come to see me, once a week or, sometimes every day, sometimes twice a day, depending on the day or the week or the shift. So I want to say that San Diego, really taught me a lot about what type of service I wanted to give.
Yeah.
And how I expect for the people who I employ to behave as well. So for me, that was really good.
Like a good template almost, or like a profile in a sense, right?
Right.
So to hire to. I guess, it's interesting because it makes sense. So you do the server thing, you step behind the bar, you start to understand your strengths and how to play to those and to give people the kind of experience that they want. At this point, because it sounds like you talk about work ethic. I mean, you're incredibly timely. Like just the correspondences we've had, I can tell you're on top of your shit.
Yeah.
Which is almost a rarity in this industry. But are you thinking, it'd be nice someday to have my own thing? Was that a thought that was even kind of springing up yet?
So that probably became a real thought of mine when I started bar managing at Jackalope.
Yeah.
I had been in the service industry at that point for a very long time. And I wanted to learn other facets of the business, from other than just an employee standpoint, what goes into, the running of the day-to-day establishment and, how do you open your own business and things like that. I now realize that I don't think that I'm very happy working with people.
Yeah.
So my business partners and I collaborate together.
Sure.
It's their business that I run, but I am their partner.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of freedom, and I, was able to open up another location because I really, really wanted to. And I had proved to them that if they trusted me to do so, that I would make them happy and I would make them money. And I promise you, sort of deal. But I also know the amount of hours that it takes for your own personal business. And the amount that I spend on their business I don't think I have enough for my own personal business.
It's a great, absolutely does. Yeah. I mean, you're really, really involved with operations. So let's talk about this Jackalope chapter, because it was a very important place for me. I've been in Austin like 16 years now, and we would always, when I lived in Travis Heights, Thursday nights, we'd go and
come on down.
It's seriously. And did you guys have the big drink then too?
Yeah, the Eldorado.
The Eldorado. Yeah. Oh my God.
That puppy's been a staple for a long time.
It was so good. It's still good.
Yeah.
You can see my eyes.
Yeah.
And nostalgia.
And it might not even, I think the flavor profile is refreshing.
Yeah.
It might not be the best drink you've ever had, but there's something about it that just makes it fun.
Yeah.
That you're like, you know what, this is good. I do like this.
I don't have to think about it. It just works. Yeah. It's like John Fogerty.
Yeah.
Read it. Like just stuff that you get. I don't know why John Fogerty's on my mind.
I don't know. It just sort of is.
It sort of is. But was San Diego, was the shift from San Diego then to Austin? That was the next, not, we're skipping some in the middle, but that kind of move. Why Austin? Because it seems like an interesting jump at that time.
Right.
We're talking mid 2000s?
So
when did you come into town?
I got here actually probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
So I did San Diego for roughly 8 years, 8 or 9 to be honest. And while I worked there, because it's funny, I lived there, but I worked there more than I lived there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess so.
I worked 2 to 3 jobs the entire time that I was there.
Oh, man.
It was really only until probably the last, I want to say maybe 6 months, maybe a year, that I only had 1 job. So as far as, the types of places that I've worked, I've literally worked in every type of bar or restaurant you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
I've worked at a sushi lounge. I've worked at a conceptual lounge. I've worked at dive bars, neighborhood bars, sports bars, clubs, Italian wine bars.
It's amazing. So you're like the perfect person to put into any situation.
Mexican restaurants, high-end Mexican restaurants.
Shop bars.
Totally.
Amazing.
Literally any type of bar you could think of, I worked in.
Mm-hmm.
And, in Southern California, you're on the paper chase. What place just opened up? Mm-hmm. How much money are they making there? Oh, shit, I'm going to go work there. It's always what's opening. How much money do you think you're going to make there? What kind of shifts am I going to get? Can I work double somewhere else? Okay, cool, no problem.
Yeah.
So when I came here, oddly enough, I was like, I've worked a lot.
Sure.
I'm just going to chill out.
Different pace of life here, too.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, I never chilled out. I think.
Keep telling yourself, right?
Yeah. I think the first 2 months that I lived in Austin 6 years ago, I had some free time.
But that was it.
That was it.
I can recall 6 years ago, I had a good couple weeks that were available.
I remember when we first moved here, I went on the search for a perfect deviled egg plate. And I took the whole day going to thrift stores and having happy hour. That was a great day.
That was it. Yeah. Your memoirs have 2 pages.
Yes,
the 2 days you were able to look for deviled egg trays. Yeah. Well, so what was it about Austin that drew you to it? It's a great place, obviously. It's kind of evidently cool.
I think that, like a lot of people who move here, I was smoke and mirrored a little, because I came during South by.
Oh,
and of course, everybody thinks, because we don't know any better, that, oh, wow, this town's always like this.
Oh,
this is awesome. This is on fire. Look at all these people.
Yeah.
This is cool. And then you move here and you're like, whoa, this is much slower.
Totally.
Life pace.
Seasonal. Very seasonal.
Right, than I thought it would be. But, so I had come for South by several times, since I had been living in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I was actually very happy with how slow it was here because, to be honest, when I first moved here, Austin felt to me like a giant Tucson.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Yeah.
It is. It's got a cool scene. It's not very big because, to me, Austin still isn't that big.
Right.
know?
Yeah. It's crazy how many of us just know each other.
Totally. Oh, so-and-so probably. Oh, yeah. No, I do know that person. I know that. Right. Yeah. It's inescapable.
Sure.
I want to spend a day off going to a place that I'm not going to see any customers. Oh, shit. There's 5 people that I see every day.
Unavoidable.
Totally. But so when I moved here, everything was new to me and it was slow and it was easy and it was, kind of nice. And then I, got that management job and it was like, whoa, this is all of a sudden, 60 hours a week, sometimes 70 hours a week.
Serious deal, right?
Say it again?
Serious deal. Was it a salaried thing too?
Yeah, so, it's like a salaried plus tip deal.
Yeah. So that's how it's like 40 hours, but more like 60 hours.
Yeah, plus, like, I was used to working these crazy hours, and I'm like, well, so wait, if I work another shift, and I was like the type of bar manager, it's like, oh, you want the day off? Cool, no problem, I'll take that shift.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody will work for you? No problem, I'll take that shift. Hey,
But, I mean, it's great. But were you married at the time?
Yeah, so John and I moved together here as a married couple, and we celebrated our first anniversary here in
That's
town.
incredible.
Yeah.
So that is one of the fallouts, if you will, or shrapnel of being in this industry. Is he relatively understanding that you have these late nights? Guys are going to be throwing themselves at you because they're drunk and...
Well, we worked in the same industry together in San Diego.
Okay.
And he works in the same industry here.
Oh, he does? Okay.
He doesn't have, by any means, the crazy hours that I have because he's not in this management position. But he had managed at a couple different places here, earlier on, probably like 3 years ago or whatever. Yeah.
Because he's like doing real estate stuff now, isn't he?
Correct, yeah. So he works at, a bar down on South Lamar a couple nights a week, and then he does real estate during the day.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if that's going to take a grinding halt due to this election.
I think it might. Who knows, right?
Yeah. We actually have some friends of ours that were pretty gung-ho about buying a house. Text this morning, we're going to hold off for a while.
Really?
I don't blame them. I mean, people want to, buying a house is an investment.
Oh, sure.
And if I'm investing all of this money into this thing, I want to make sure that I see a return, not that, the housing markets are going to crumble because the Dow went down earlier, but now is back up.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so weird. It's just a weird, but to your point, it makes a lot of sense. You're throwing a lot of money in something, but, Austin's a relatively sure bet at this point. Just fewer and fewer houses to get.
Yeah.
Can't get them for the price that you want.
No.
But so real estate, good choice for him to do that. But so since you guys have similar hours, not a lot of friction there then.
No, not at all. I think if anything, he's never upset or whatever about how much I work. He's probably honestly the most supportive husband I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Because I definitely, we've all heard it. Oh, my wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband left me because of the amount of hours I work, or the job comes first, or, my boyfriend, if we were dating, I think it would be harder.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of people have to overcome how demanding a position like this is.
Yeah.
But we are already married. He loves me. I love him. We have great lines of communication. Totally, exactly. Yeah. I think if anything, he probably just worries about how much I work in the aspect that, I'm getting tired, or like, hey, I didn't have a chance to eat today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
stuff like general maintenance.
I'm like, okay, I got to get my Klein bar in before I pick out what kind of booze I want to drink for the interview.
Yeah.
I got to get a base in.
You're totally right. Like, my back hurts.
Right.
My feet hurt.
Yeah.
My throat hurts. Right?
Yes.
Which is a crazy thing. And I've met a few people that when you talk about repetitive injuries, obviously shoulder, elbow, but throat is one of these things.
Yeah.
People I never even thought about.
Because you're talking so much and you're
so
projecting
loud.
And you're straining and
Well, one of the things, so talking about Jackalope, which I think has been a really, obviously, early on important for me too. Again, the stars in the eyes, thinking about the early 2000s, right? Which is a lovely,
it just
lovely
feels
thing.
good. It's like,
totally
man, I remember those days.
Yeah. It was, man, I was such a wiener back in the day.
I thought I was really cool, but I don't know. Was I?
Yeah. Absolutely not cool. But you're really, really astute with regard to branding. And so Jackalope is something, I talk to random bartenders just about Jackalope, and they have the same kind of fondness about it. They're like, I've traveled the world, and I think about a bar that I would always want to go to wherever it was in the world, and Jackalope always comes up. So is it, as you kind of like, your take on it, why is it so special? Because it's ordinary, but not,
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's like unconventionally beautiful.
Yeah.
You see somebody and you're like, that person's really attractive, but not in the way that most people think somebody's attractive.
Totally, yeah.
That's sort of, to me, the Jackalope. It is, I think it has a lot to do with the uniqueness of character, especially where it's located.
Yeah.
If the other bars on the street were as divey as our bar might seem less special to a degree. I also think, so Jackalope's been open now for 12 years, and I've been a part of it for 6.
Amazing.
I think certainly it got its roots in this like really dingy, grimy, sort of underground,
music, man. All the music, all of us would
totally.
go. Yeah.
And, also like the bartenders literally did not give a fuck at the time.
Yeah.
Like they really didn't, which was really cool if you worked there or if you were a regular.
Yeah.
It wasn't cool if you wanted to actually spend your money there or get served.
Mm-hmm.
And, sort of 6 years ago when I took over that spot, we weren't doing as well as we should have been. And we weren't doing well at all.
Okay. Wow.
People were basically giving away the house.
I see.
And, which is great when you're a bartender, you think, oh, I'm just going to give my friends these things and then I'm going to get all of this money in my tip jar.
Right.
And this bottle of booze technically didn't cost this much because I saw the invoice. So I'm only giving away $20 worth of booze because that's how much the bottle cost. But people who don't run a business don't understand
that. Overhead, the taxes.
Exactly, how much you pay your employees. It doesn't matter if they only make $2.14 an hour. There's an entire kitchen in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And, just so many things go into it. And we were at a point at that time that changes needed to be made. Otherwise, we probably would have sort of had the same fate as, let's say, Lovejoy's.
Yeah.
With
that particular objective in mind, is that why they brought you, this well-versed person, this veteran of hospitality, in to kind of clean house? Was that the objective, or did you just notice, like, I don't know that we can sustain the business like this?
So I wasn't, brought in to necessarily clean house. I had been working there as a part-time bartender.
Okay.
And I had always loved that bar when I would come visit for South by. So when John and I moved here, I said, you know what? I worked really hard for like the last decade. Yeah. I'm only going to work at places that I really want to work.
Definitely. Yeah.
I know what I'm worth. I know what my resume stands for. Even if these people don't know these places in California, it doesn't really matter because I know that I'm very diverse.
Mm.
And there's literally nowhere that I can't work. So I applied at Jackalope and I was hired, pretty much the next day.
Amazing.
I just happened to come in while the owner was sitting at the bar, and he told somebody, hire that person.
Amazing,
he took a look at the resume and said, well, like, first of all, I don't even know that people had resumes 6 years ago, that they were like flyering the town with nice paper and well-dressed. And
watermarks.
I still get people to this day who come in for literally a scheduled interview, and I can't tell if they're homeless.
Oh, man. It's so strange.
Right? It's crazy.
But
so
you have this professional nature about you, though,
right.
I mean, you're up in the game.
Yeah. So, fortunately, I was really on point that day. And I started as a part-time bartender, just sort of this on-call person. They didn't, quote unquote, have any shifts for me.
Right.
But then it was like, oh, shit, nobody actually really wants to work. Everybody, like, wants the day off every day.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm picking up all these crazy shifts. I'm, like, there every day. And I have a meeting with the owner, Jason, and he, kind of asked me, what is it that you think about the place? You just kind of got here, but I didn't spend a lot of time talking to him or any one person while I was working. I was literally busy working, helping people. Right. And so I think just my work ethic was very different than a vast majority of the people who were working there at the time.
Sure.
Certainly there were a lot of really great people who worked there and that continued to work there years after I took over, but I think it was very easy to see somebody who was motivated versus some people who were taking their jobs and their lives for granted.
Yeah.
So
you wrote, like, it was self-evident. Like,
correct.
You made it, just talking to you on the phone, I'm going to tell you, like, I'll go back to this. Like, you take shit seriously.
This
is
yeah.
great, though. You take your time seriously. You take the brand seriously.
Right.
You're like, is this scheduled? you give me notice.
Right.
Like, this is a great thing. So you have, like, this business acumen that in a lot of ways is very, very uncommon in the industry. And maybe that's your edge. Just wanting to get shit done and do it the right way.
Oh yeah, like the right way the first time.
That's right,
without like having to go back. Well, yeah. So that's kind of how I ended up, being in that bar management position. And we certainly had turnover pretty immediately.
I bet.
Because I think people were used to doing things the way that they did them. And people don't necessarily like change, especially at that time. They didn't really have a boss who actually held people accountable.
Wait, accountable? I don't want to be
what
accountable.
Do you mean? I don't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? Why would I tell these people no who are stealing and giving away all these things? Because, I don't know, they were wasted too. So there was a lot of bad decisions being made.
But how long did it take you before you felt like you had taken the reins and really realigned it, recalibrated back to a place where we're going to make it now? We're not that close to closing down.
I honestly didn't realize what negative sort of shape that it was in. Like from a person who had worked at a lot of different places as an employee, I was like, whoa, shit needs to change, and it needs to change fast. Like from my own perspective, I was like, who the fuck's even running this place? When I wasn't bar manager, I'm like, there's like 5 people who say that they're their managers, and I've got like bartenders yelling at and degrading barbacks, like losing it on them. I'm like, this place is like the fucking Wild West. I'm like, not in a good way.
The inmates are running it, aren't they?
Totally. And again, when people have worked at a place for a long time and there's not a lot of accountability, and you are allowed to be wasted behind the bar, and this is kind of the cultural norm of the place, for me, that wasn't normal.
Right.
Like for me, every place that I had ever worked, if you don't sell and you don't have high sales, you don't have shifts.
Yep.
And at the end of the night, everybody's comparing what their sales were to your sales. And if you're the weak link, you're not getting scheduled next week.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's
hello, we're in the sales business.
Right.
We're in customer service, but we're in sales, people.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't until, I want to say, anywhere from like 6 months to a year later, I was having a meeting with the general manager of the time.
Mm.
And he's the one who told me, hey, I just want you to know that we were in some bad shape, before you kind of came along. And that.
So, like he's saying this, now we're in the clear. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Basically, like, there were, in his opinion, cases of liquor, quote unquote, going out the back door.
Oh my gosh.
Which, even if somebody's not physically taking that liquor, it's the amount that's being lost in inventory every single month because the employees are giving it away or they're drinking it themselves.
Right.
That is money lost. And again, people don't think that, oh, well, this bottle of vodka only costs $10. It's way beyond that.
Yeah.
And, I think tightening the reins and getting rid of some, ultimately some bad seeds or people who couldn't like adhere to what was actually happening. But also, we started making a lot more money when I took over. Not just the business, but
people notice. Yeah.
But like as employees, it was like, I remember working there on a Friday night when all these other bars are packed before I was the bar manager, and leaving with $110 and getting out at 4 a.m. I'm like, these people aren't making any money. $110
on a Friday night 6 is not.
That's insane. But again, those people blamed the business.
Right.
It's the business's fault that nobody comes in. Maybe it's your fault because you're really rude.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your fault because you stare at the customers that you don't know in an evil way and you don't actually want them to come in, instead of being like, hey guys, what's up? What can I get for you?
Again, some really, really striking parallels to people, how they vote, how they feel marginalized, how it's everybody else's fault.
Right. It's not my fault.
It's not my fault. Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong.
God, accountability. That's a whole other show. But
it is.
That is a really important value. And it's nice to know you came in. I imagine like this Alec Baldwin kind of type that's like cleans shit up, Yeah. It's like you get the good leads only if you're good kind of thing. Anyway, Glenn Ross, that kind of thing. Yeah. But you course correct. They notice you're the GM, and so things obviously are going well. For how long? Because I'm trying to think of the timeline between when this idea of the second location, how did it kind of start to percolate?
So after I was made bar manager, I became a managing partner probably, I don't know, a year and a half later, I want to say, somewhere in that time. So I had been, working on that brand for a while now, between then and now. And probably about 2 South bys ago, I had a very serious conversation, with my, boss and partner, Jason. And I was ready to be off 6th Street. I'm like, I really like this bar and I really like this brand and what it is that we're doing, but I think we're ready to open another location and expand. He and I had talked like, well, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to, because at this time that we're having this conversation, I was also the GM of Chupacabra. next door.
Yeah.
So I was like managing. I really don't know where I get the energy. I was managing 2 places at once simultaneously.
Yeah.
On 6th Street. So that's, it's not like it's like these slow, like, I don't know, bars that it's like, oh, whatever. We maybe did a $10,000 in sales this week. And,
right. No, I mean, it's like 2 fast-paced things.
Totally, yeah.
That's the perfect training.
Yeah.
The gauntlet to get you prepared for opening up a new location.
So we had a pretty, direct conversation of, I'm ready to do something else. I still want to do it within, this brand that I've really been working on, but I'm really, wanting to expand it.
Yeah.
So that's basically where the conversation started. And then he and the other partner started looking really heavily into different areas of town, different locations. I started looking into different locations. The other partner is very savvy when it comes to real estate.
Yeah.
So he knows all the ins and outs of, following the trends. And, I'm not going to use the word obsessed with real estate. But he's like kind of obsessed with real estate.
He tinkers.
He tinkers to the wee hours. So they started really, looking hard over at the Riverside location that we're at now.
How long? So when you guys kind of identified the location to now, because it's still not even fully, the grand opening is not until basically 2 weeks still.
Yeah.
So how long did it take in terms of build out and getting that place ready to go live?
So we acquired that building in October of last year.
Oh, okay.
And, as we all know, South by is a huge halting point for business.
Oh, right.
So it's kind of like the entire city stops. Either you're working on something before South by or you're waiting until South by is over.
Yeah.
So we really, even though we had that building, we didn't really go into it and start the build out till, right around the time of South by. Mm-hmm. Because the downtown locations, that's the bread and butter for everybody.
You got to focus. Yeah.
You really, really have to focus.
Yeah.
And, you want to hit your goals and all this, whatever. So we probably started, somewhere in the April, May, June, time frame of this year. And then hitting it really hard and then completing it, at the beginning of October.
Was there a specific unique quality you wanted it to have as an extension of the brand? Because now you can get more space.
Yeah.
It's a newer build out, obviously. So you get to offer some things maybe you couldn't do downtown.
Well, so when we were thinking about this location, one thing that had, been asked of me is like, hey, Alexis, do you think that you want to keep this or emulate the downtown location? And I said no, because to me that downtown location is really special and really unique.
Yeah.
And even just by like geographical nature where it is, on 6th Street with these limestone walls and this 100-year-old building and this very cave-like structure.
Totally cave-like.
Yeah. I kind of say it's like if there was a bar in the movie Labyrinth.
Yes.
With these like kind of, I'll just say like moist-looking walls.
Even though they could in fact be moist limestone. But
yeah, they could.
But no, you're right. Like, how do you reproduce that without looking intentional?
Totally. And like contrived and, almost like a farce of, like this is cheesy.
Right,
this is like, maybe a pirate ship versus, what it was intended to be. So I instead really thought about, okay, well, if the downtown location is where the Jackalope was sort of born and got its legs, then this other location, because we don't want it to be the exact same, should be the evolution of the Jackalope.
Version 2.0.
Correct, exactly. So this is, I say the downtown location is where, Jackalope used to get dirty and party and, probably spit in people's faces for all I know.
Yeah.
And just really let loose. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Maybe fell down and skinned its knees a few times. Who knows?
Totally. Vomited it on itself at least a few times.
And maybe other people. And the South Shore location is, sort of where Jackalope decided, hey, I still really like drinking. I really like being outside. I really like being with my friends. I love living in Texas, but I just can't drink the way that I used to.
Yeah.
So, I'll say downtown is Mel Gibson and, South Shore is Danny Glover because he's too old for the shit.
That's a nice Duality.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so we really focused on having sort of this like glamping, swankier image.
Yeah.
We have a lot of natural wood in the building. We have, I think, the biggest disco ball in town.
Amazing.
We have a really beautiful outdoor area that, to me, people who live in Austin love to sit outside and drink.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to expand the patio, but again, not in the same vein as the downtown location, because if we tried to recreate that patio, it would have been super cheesy.
Yeah.
So this is more, I think, come hang out with your friends. We've got like cornhole and Jenga and, a lot of picnic tables. So there's a lot of space for you to be with people that you want to look at directly in the eye and hang out with and have a long conversation and catch up with them.
That's incredible. A shift, maybe an evolution in kind of cocktails and stuff too? Do you guys have a proper cocktail menu this time around too?
So the downtown location, we have a cocktail menu.
Yeah.
And we have a cocktail menu at this location. But they're both built for speed. What we do is quick and efficient. We're not muddling anything. We're not trying to necessarily wow you with our knowledge of any specific spirit. Yeah. There's a lot of very knowledgeable people there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not the ultimate goal. We have a really big beer selection that's super diverse. And to me, I think beer is like the everyman's talking point.
Yeah,
you can look at a cocktail menu and sometimes be a little bit put off, or I don't know what that is. I don't know how to say this word.
Maybe intimidated.
For sure. I think beer is something, to me, when I think of a neighborhood bar, people sitting around swilling their beer and hanging out. And maybe I know that I like this one type of beer. Mm-hmm. Can you recommend another one like this? It's a little bit easier to have that conversation with those people. And I think Jackalope is a bar that people of all walks of life have always felt really comfortable. Mm-hmm. So we really wanted to make sure that happened at this new location. So we have cocktails on draft, which
perfect.
Is fun,
for speed,
great,
it's functional,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
We have a rotating frozen, which I think is fun.
Cool.
So that gives people a little bit of, leeway to be a little bit more experimental or creative.
Yeah.
And then we have, I want to say, about 5 or 6 other cocktails that are house. All of our house cocktails are served in mason jars.
That's so cool.
So that's fun too. It's like, here I am with my 16-ounce, cocktail that versus, maybe let's say a small coupe.
Right.
Which again, I love all types of bars, but for me, having a nice hearty, beverage in front of me
makes more sense.
It does. Yeah, for that brand for sure.
I know that, so I've got 2 other questions for you. I know that the jukebox was a linchpin moment or a facet of Jackalope Downtown. Got to imagine you guys spent some time thinking about the music this time around.
We spent a lot of time thinking about the music, and I probably thought about the music to the point that I had to stop thinking about the music.
Yeah.
And, Jackalope's always been known, I think, for being sort of a trendsetter, but really on par and on point of what is happening in our demographics listening range. What are our people listening to? What are we listening to? So while you're not going to hear, like, let's say Slayer,
right?
Though our last call song is always For Whom the Bell Tolls.
That's a good one. Okay. You got the bell already working for you.
Boom. Okay, last calls, Whom the Bell Tolls. That puppy plays, then it's time to go. Everybody knows that at this point. We, I think, probably have a lot of very interesting music, from maybe like, I think we've spanned different genres, however. It's not just one type of music. So, to me, we've got some like lo-fi, surf, indie.
Cool.
We've got instrumental hip hop, throwback hip hop. We've got, to me, things that fit within the brands, but you're not going to hear, the same Kiss song or Van Halen song.
Deep cuts.
Every single night of the week, you're going to hear some, maybe like a B-side.
That's good, because it is intentional, but it's never that way because it comes from passion. Because I know all you guys are big music fans.
Right.
And that's one of the things I think that you, as someone that's there, that you get. That it's not, I'm not trying to make you feel a particular way, right? Like, it's not contrived.
Right.
When you said that earlier, it's more like, I really love this thing. hopefully you guys can feel the love and love it too.
Right.
Which is a whole different kind of atmosphere. And I think that's why the original Jackalope resonates so well. Still relevant, which is crazy because a lot of bars downtown, they get turned over. Yeah. Those brands are meaningless. They really are. But Jackalope is this kind of vestige of a previous time of Austin, but still kind of evolving.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the thing with the Jackalope, like why we're successful still, and honestly more so now at this point, is that bars run with intention.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people start to take, maybe their business or a business for granted, and they're only maybe looking at the bottom line or the P&L or the cost of goods or whatever it is. And sometimes it's easy to forget because we are so bound by the money.
Right.
There's rent to pay. There's so many costs that go into running a business that people don't realize. It's easy, I think, for some people to lose sight of the fact that you're actually serving people, and the people serving people are people too.
That's right. Yeah.
So you have to take care of your staff. You have to make sure that they feel appreciated and that they understand if we have a sales goal, why we have these sales goals, and they're motivated by those things instead of, why do I have to do this?
Right.
Why is that my job?
It's culture.
Right.
It's building
exactly.
a culture.
And it's building respect and appreciation for the place you work. I think that most people in today's American society spend more hours at work than they do in their own home.
Yeah.
So if this is an extension of where you choose to spend your time, then I would sincerely hope that you treat this place with as much respect as you do your own home.
And conversely, that it treats you with the respect that you would get at home, or if your kids hate you, that you don't get at home. So
right, exactly. And that's why I'm here all the time.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I get yelled at every day of my life at my house, so I've decided to work more. Yeah.
It's a good way to get away from the kids, from what I understand. Although, no kids for me just yet.
Me neither.
Yeah, I'm not a good thing right now. But come to the kind of the last question here, and you guys have been doing some business since October, but November 19th, which is a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really looking forward to this grand opening. This, I imagine, very subtle display of grandiosity, because it's like a big deal that it's opening.
It's a really big deal, yes.
What can we expect on that Saturday? What do you want people to walk away with that night, the opening of Jackalope South Shore?
Personally, I would love for people to walk away from that experience feeling like they identify with what it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
Certainly putting on an event like this, like you really lose a lot of sleep because a grand opening only happens once.
That's right.
And we have a lot of, I think, really interesting things that will be going on through that night.
Yeah.
We have a lot of support from the people who have supported us over the years. And ultimately, I want you to feel like you left a Jackalope party.
Amazing.
It doesn't matter which Jackalope it was. Probably you should take a ride share. That's all I'm going to say. Think ahead, people. And we have bike racks there, too.
Killer.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an amazing thing. Some of the staff you've got, Tacey's still there, right? Jeremy.
Yeah.
These are really, really great minds.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a better culture that you could kind of build with these folks.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to know we all grow up. The descendants have jobs now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, where would they drink? It used to be Milwaukee's best on a concrete floor.
Yeah.
But now, Milo works at 3M or something. You got to up the stakes.
Yeah.
You need a nicer cocktail.
Yeah.
So Jackalope 2.0, I think it's going to be brilliant.
I think so, too. I think people are going to have a really great time. And I think overall, the feedback we've had has been amazing. We have a lot of staff that we brought from the downtown location over. So we have a really, to me, unique and diverse amount of people and, skill levels there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I'll see you on the 19th. It'll be great. And I'll make sure that we spread the word as much as we can.
Please do.
So thanks so much for chatting with me, Alexis. And thanks for sharing some old charter tenure. This is something that, like I said, kind of a white whale, and people chug it down.
And amazing. I did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, there we have it. What do you guys think of Alexis? Great work ethic. One of the most responsive and responsible and schedule-focused people I've ever had on the show. And it was great getting to talk to her about her methodology. And I hear she runs a very tight ship. But two things remaining I want to talk about. One was This is the first chat I had with anybody post-election results, and a lot of people in a lot of interesting places, some dark, some weird. Maybe we're feeling disenfranchised, maybe we're feeling marginalized, maybe we're not feeling heard. All of that stuff is very reasonable, and I completely understand. I hope that we all can be positive and optimistic about the things that will be happening in the next 4 years. I am here to talk about it, and I hope you always feel comfortable reaching out if you want to commiserate. And secondly, of course, the great news is Jackalope 2.0, Jackalope South Shore, the location that is an expansion, a lovelier, more mature version of the original, has its grand opening this Saturday on November 19th. I hope to see you there. I think the cocktails will be great. I think the music will be great. And there is a big focus on beer this time around. So grab yourself a pint and enjoy that grand opening of Jackalope South Shore this Saturday on November 19th. Thank you, Alexis, for chatting with me. And thank you all for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter if you're waiting for the coffee to kick in or if you're thinking it's really going to get down into the 40s this weekend, please keep thinking.